Hi guys, Mrs. Landers here with Spiral Review number 1. Again, this video is just to give you guys a resource. If you want to watch this video to help you through the spiral review, I'll do a few examples and then you can do the rest of the problems on your own. I recommend always having a calculator handy, just a basic calculator. You can use one on a phone, but remember calculators are nice tools, so you can use them. Be especially careful when you're putting in negative signs, because sometimes when you press the negative sign or the minus sign, the calculator might get confused. So sometimes it thinks that you're switching operations to subtraction, and you need to be aware of that. So a basic calculator, sometimes what I do is I just imagine how to do the problem without the signs and know what sign to put on the problem. And then I go back and do that without having to type all that stuff with the signs on the calculator itself. So just a little piece of advice there. So let's go ahead and get started. This first section here on Spiral Review number 1 is on absolute value. And absolute value, if you recall, it's when we look at the distance to 0 on a number line. So absolute value always ends up being positive when you're focused in on the numbers that are between those absolute value bars. If you want to think about how far is -4 from 0 on a number line, it's 4 spaces away from the 0 on the number line. So this, if you rewrote it, would just be the number 4, a positive value. 12/5, if I wanted to put that in whole number, or excuse me, mixed number format, I would just do 12 divided by 5, which is 2 whole, because 5 times 2 is 10. And then we've got a remainder of 2, so we can put that in our numerator. So if I ate 12 pieces of pizza that were all fifths, like if one pizza had 5 slices, 12 pieces with 5 slices in each pizza means I would eat 2 whole pizzas and then 2 more pieces of that third pizza. That they're all size 5, 1/5 of that pizza. So you can easily compare here, and I like to say our alligator likes to eat the larger things, so the alligator is going to turn towards the value of the 4, okay? So the absolute value of 8 is simply 8, 5 is 5, so you can do that one on your own. Just watch yourself here with your decimals and make sure that you're looking at absolute value. The next section is asking you to order from the least to greatest. So the best thing to do on problems like these is look at how you can put all of the numbers in either very easy to compare terms or all the same format, like all in decimal form, all in fraction forms, or something like that. So some of these are going to jump out to be a little bit more easy, so we don't have to put them all in exactly the same format, like all in decimal format, for example. So if I have -2.1, I kind of know that I can't really simplify that anymore. The absolute value of 5 is 5. Again, the distance from 0 on a number line for 5 is 5 spots away. The absolute value of 4 is 4. 8 is just 8. And then -7/12 is going to be less than -1. Okay, less than -1. I could use my calculator and I could just do 7 divided by 12 and get 0.583 repeating. And that's fine too, but I can already tell pretty quickly that that's less than -1. Be careful when you're thinking about negative numbers on a number line. If I had something close to, here's 0, here's -1, here's -2. This is close to -2.1, probably just past it if we're going that direction, okay? This one is less than -1, so it'll be about right here. So when we order from least to greatest, we're going left to right. So our lowest number is -2.1. Then the next lowest number, it's the next negative number, is -7/12. So don't forget to put that back in the format they gave it to you in. Then 4, 5, and 8. So those are pretty self-explanatory. So 4, 5, and 8. Again, making sure that you put them back in the original format that they gave them to you in. That's probably one of the most common mistakes I see on a problem like that. So take what you know about absolute value, fractions, decimals, and apply that. And again, least to greatest. If you were to put them on a number line, we'd be looking left to right. The next section is on expressions. So expressions are, they don't have equal signs, because expressions, you're just simplifying them. So a lot of times you'll hear the directions say evaluate the expression or simplify the expression, same idea. And all of these particular ones, there's mostly multiplication or exponents. So I'll just do this first one. PEMDAS always has me do any parentheses, exponents, multiplication, or division from the left to the right, and then addition or subtraction from the left to the right. So I could technically divide before I multiply. I could subtract before I add. That's why I like to write it like that. When I'm looking at a problem like this, all there is multiplication. There is a negative right here. So just moving from the left to the right, 2 times -3 is -6. -6 times a +5 is going to be -30, okay? So whenever we multiply and divide, I talk about the buddy system. If we have 2 negatives being multiplied or divided, they like to buddy up, cancel out, and go skip off into the distance together, right? So when I see a problem like this, number 7, negative times a negative, those guys like to buddy up. 5 times 4 is 20, and there was no negative sign there. But then 20 times a -1, okay, I could put a little dot here so you see that we're still multiplying. It's going to be a -20 because 20 times 1 is 20, and it's going to have a negative sign stuck with it. No one to buddy up with and cancel out, okay? Then I've got a problem like this one, -2 to the 3rd power. So I'm hugging, that's what I like to call this parenthesis here. It's like hugging the whole 2 with that negative sign in there. So we are taking that -2 times itself 3 times. Ooh, I said the word 3 and my brain wanted to write it down. -2 times -2 times -2. 3 negatives means 2 of them are going to buddy up, or we're going to be left with 1. So there's going to be a negative answer. And 2 times 2 times 2 is not 6. It's so tempting for us to want to think it's 6. 2 times 3 is not that right. It's not the right answer. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. So your final answer on that one would be -8. And then you can do the other ones. Watch out, because this one has an absolute value in it. All right, this last section is on simplifying the expressions. So very similar. On this one, you'll see there is addition and subtraction in these examples. So what I want you to do is switch gears in your brain, because when we add and subtract, we have different rules than we multiply and divide. And you know that to a degree. You know that if I say 3 minus 1, I can't just switch the order and make that 1 minus 3. Those are 2 different answers. But 3 times 1 and 1 times 3 are allowed to give you the same answer. That's called the commutative property, where you can change the order, right? So when we add and subtract, a rule that's different is you need to combine like terms. They have to have a matching label. So you can combine things that have M's on them. You can combine things that have X's. You can combine things that have Y's. And you can combine what people in math call constants. And that's like -7 and +2. So I'm going to go ahead and let's look at this one. If we think about it as a label, that will help. -15, +9 of the same thing. Think of melons or mud pies, or I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. Let's say mud pies. Okay, so you're out in the backyard. Someone makes -15 mud pies, or throws 15 mud pies and loses them, but finds 9 mud pies. Okay, so all in all, kind of an abstract thought there, but -15 and 9 is going to be a difference of 6, -6, okay? I talk about a tug of war here. If 15 fought 9, who would win? Because this one has a greater absolute value. It would be -15 the winner, and it would win by 6, okay? And since it's like the tug of war, the -15 is pulling one way and the +9 is pulling the other way, and so the winners would tumble into their side, which is the negative side. Okay. Number 13 asks us to multiply and combine all these things. Think of them, and I told you this in class, but think of them as this sign that's in front of it, that's subtracting 7, right? But that's also adding a -7. Okay. So if you really want to think of it, you could kind of box in your X's. I've got 6 and I've got 9. Altogether, that's 15 X's. And then maybe you could use another shape like a circle. I've got -7 and +2. There's a tug of war happening there. -7 beats +2 by 5. And since it's more powerful as a negative, it's going to be a -5. So it looks like 15 minus 5, 15x minus 5. It is the same thing as 15x and -5 being combined. Okay, so that's your answer for that one. And then on this last one here, we'll go ahead and combine your y's. I've got 2/3 of a y and -11/12 of a y. Okay, that's going to be a little bit trickier, not trickier, but time consuming, because we got to do the fractions. And then I'm also going to have my +5 and my -3. Right here, that's pretty easy. Tug of war, I've got one of each, so I'm combining. 5 beats -3 by 2, and it's a +5, so it's a +2. Okay, now let's take a second and look at this. 2/3 of y and then negative 11/12. So there's a tug of war happening there as well. So you always want to find the difference between the numbers when you have a tug of war, when you have a positive and a negative, and you're adding them together. Find the one that's bigger, a greater absolute value, and subtract that, the one with a greater power, the greater absolute value compared to the other one. So which one's bigger, 2/3 or 11/12? Now remember, we're holding off on the sign, we're just focusing on which one has a greater absolute value. 2/3, 11/12. Imagine if you had 2/3 of a pizza, 2 out of 3 pieces of pizza, or if you ate 11 out of 12 pieces of pizza. You ate more of the pizza if you ate this one. So let's find how much more powerful or how much bigger 11/12 is going to be compared to 2/3. I'm going to make my subtraction sign right there. All right, anytime you add or subtract or compare with fractions, you need to have like denominators if the answer doesn't jump out at you kind of quickly. So 12 and 3, they can both go into the number 12, okay? So 11/12 is already 11/12, that's good. Thirds, okay, if I wanted to make pieces that are thirds into pieces that are 12s, I have to chop them all up into 4 pieces each. So that means I have 4 times as many pieces. So 2 times 4 is going to be 8. So 11/12 of a pizza minus 8/12 of a pizza gives me 3/12 or 1/4 of a pizza. 1/4 of a pizza. Now I have to decide, is it going to be positive or negative? Okay. The more powerful number or number with a greater absolute value is going to win that sign. So we go ahead and we say, well, the bigger one was a negative. So it would be negative 1/4. Okay. So just watch your signs. And again, when you add, subtract, and compare with fractions, you need to make sure you have the same denominator. Now, I gave you 3 more on your own to do. You're going to combine k's here, but you only have 1 constant that needs to just stay on its own. Here you've got 2 constants. Remember those signs, take those signs with them. You've got 2 x's that you need to combine. And then on the last one, number 17, you need to make sure you get your h's together. It looks like there's a tug of war. We've got positive 1/8 and a negative 3/4. So think about which one is bigger. Subtract bigger minus smaller to find how much stronger that number is. And this one's bigger. So we're going to have a negative sign, a negative amount of h's in this problem. Don't forget your constant as well. All right. Good luck.